The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck, is a movie that entertained and disappointed me, so I am going to judge it based on what it is and not what I expected it to be. Then I'll give my condescending 2020 hindsight recommendations on how the movie can be improved when it's remade in 20 years. It is hard for me to do so because I had such high expectations for this movie, and although they were not met, I still had a great time. Christian Wolf, or the Accountant, is a highly gifted and autistic mathematician who is a small-town public accountant by day and a ruthless, highly skilled mercenary by night. He makes his fortune by cooking the books for several criminal organizations, ignoring the ethics of his clients in order to donate the money to charity? Right? I don't know, I was confused. As soon as you think you have a grip on the movie's plot, it slips through your fingers and introduces an unpredictable and unnecessary plot twist that never moves the story forward. Every character is given an arc in this film that relates in some way to the main character, but the presence of these subplots ultimately dilute the film's primary arc. You can remove all of these subplots and characters, keeping only Affleck and Anna Kendrick, and you'd still have the same exact movie. These subplots have minimal impact on the overall story of the movie. In typical post-Pulp Fiction fashion, excuse me. The nonlinear story is told from two different periods of Christian's life, Christian Wolf as a suffering autistic child, and Christian Wolf as the accountant. Though the action is great, the origin story is boiled down to a few select scenes of the young Christian dealing with the mental effects of his autism during his tumultuous childhood, which is far more interesting than Wolf's present-day exploits as a mercenary super spy accountant. The title character is a cross between John Forbes Nash and The Punisher, which in theory should be fucking amazing. The Punisher scenes are not in short supply. The action is loud, brutal, and it shows why Ben Affleck was such a great choice to play a more mature Batman. Whereas the John Forbes Nash scenes are almost non-existent. The full scope of the accountant's mental prowess is never explored. He solves the majority of his problems with his fists rather than his wits, and his random displays of genius are boiled down to a few moments of inaudible murmurs like, 6 times 4 divided by 3 is the square root of 7, during a problem-solving montage and the typical, "I've cracked the case, Watson, let's go shoot some bad guys in the head." Problem-solving is what makes this character so interesting, and the problems that he is given to solve are beneath his massive intellect. And honestly, I could have done most of these problems, okay? And I suck at math. He is self-described as socially awkward until he isn't, inexplicably switching between Rain Man and Jason Bourne. He is able to quell his autistic genius and exercise his mind by cooking the books for criminals, each time using a new alias based on a famous mathematician, acting as a 21st century clandestine Robin Hood. But he has more in common with James Bond than Lewis Carroll or Carl Friedrich Gauss. The majority of the characters in this movie barely interact with each other. I think Ben Affleck and J.K. Simmons share one scene in this movie that's like 20 seconds long. Most of the characters are only used for meaningless plot twists and filler. There's one storyline, the federal agent that's working under J.K. Simmons. I have no idea why that was included in the movie. You could have erased that entire story and you would have had the same exact movie. But overall, it's still a good movie, it's a fun movie to watch, and I would give it a 6 out of 10, slightly above average.